Well, hello and welcome to those of you that have joined us. Hope you're having a splendid day. I have started this psychic spiritual development and showcasing various different people who have been drawn to work in the psychic and spiritual fields as healers, as empaths, as readers, as mediums, as shaman. So, to begin with our debut, we have a really fascinating person here who has shared some really interesting and inspiring content on that I've seen on her Telegram page, which is, as her name suggests, Michele Victoria. Go and check it out. Though, without any further ado, let me introduce dear Michele. Thank you. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself as an introduction.
Okay, thank you, Franklin. So, my name is Michele Victoria, and I was born and raised in Ireland. And I've been doing psychic mediumship work from 2017. My journey really started with this. And then I moved to America for 3 years, met my husband, and have recently just returned. So I mainly do my work online. Most of it, about 90% of my work's done online, international calls. And that's me. Do you want me to start on where it began, or?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to as they say, start at the beginning. And I'm really curious, like when did you first notice that you had, shall we say, an unusual ability to tune in to the natural world around you and gain insights into people's energy and what will happen? And also, like, what exactly is it that you do work-wise?
Okay, well, yes, well, being a psychic medium, I do connect with spirit, and I do tap in with the energies around me as well. But my main goal really is to help people realize their own power, and I don't start my readings on "you're broken and this is what you need to fix." I always, my aim is for people to see that they're whole, and that these mistakes or their patterns are just mistakes that they need to work through. So mainly I'll touch on people's relationships, I'll touch on career, their life path, things that's holding them back. But I also do astrology. I'm still a baby at astrology. I've been doing it for 3 years, and I think I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. But I just see, our astrology chart's just a blueprint, and I use it for timing and patterns. And I use my intuition with that as well. So yes, that's mainly, and I've been a Reiki master as well. So I've done my Reiki, but my main thing at the minute is I want to get into a little bit more of the teaching and on helping people reconnect with themselves and to listen to their own voice. Because, we all have the answers within us. We all know. I'm just helping guide that light back out again. Well, my journey is a crazy one, because I know, looking back now, that I was always intuitive. I just didn't understand when I was younger. And there was a part of my life where I got dependent on pain medication, and alcohol was a weekend thing. But what happened was I just hit a dark night of the soul, really, in 2013. And I just thought, I can't go on like this. And I prayed, I did, and I stopped. I had to go into rehab. So I'm hoping this is a bit of inspiration for people, that you can turn your life around. But what happened after that was I was really disconnected with myself, basically. And once I'd let that go, it wasn't one event. It was a series of synchronicities, really, that led me here. So I remember about a year, after cutting everything out and trying to clean my life up, I remember praying again, because I did have a condition. I did have a sore back, and I thought, I can't go back onto the pain medication. And I prayed again. And that weekend, I was at a wedding reception, and I overheard a couple of people talk about Reiki. And I asked for information on it, ended up going on to try and book a treatment, and came across a guy, Paul from Belfast, and he was advertising a deal to do this Reiki. So I ended up doing my 3 courses, but I think it was more, looking back now, I know this was spirit guiding me to understand energy and the unseen, because it just totally opened up my world. And a few months after finishing my Reiki Master, I was in a waiting room, and there was a stranger. It was a girl I didn't know, but she lifted up a leaflet and she says to me, have you ever heard of this place? And it was Arthur Findlay College, Mediumship College in London. And when she mentioned it, every hair on my body stood up. And I thought, I have to sign up. And that was 2017. That was the beginning of the journey. But I did have a series of events happen, looking back, that I know led me here. So I didn't go looking for it. It came to me. So that was it. I went to Arthur Findlay Mediumship College. That actually, they help teach you how to reconnect with yourself and to tap in with that divine spirit. And it took me about 2 years to get my head around it, really, and to practice. And I'd done a lot of practice and returned a few times. And it was, there was a lot of fear there in going out public. So I was doing a lot of practice in friends and family. And I was sort of pushed then. My friend says, you have to start doing it. And it was weird, because I had an idea in my head how I was going to do these readings, and I still didn't feel fully confident. I wanted it to come through stronger, but realizing now our spirit, our inner voice is very subtle. So I sat down. I remember doing my first reading with a stranger, and it just totally went different than the way I was going to realize it. So once I relaxed and let it flow, and that was it. Basically, I've been doing it ever since. I was a bookkeeper as well in a credit union. So I was doing that alongside my readings. And then when I moved to America, I was just doing my readings full time.
Wow. So that's quite interesting. And I think that's quite typical. I mean, I can relate from my own experience and all the people I've known that have done all sorts of spiritual healing, psychic healing, various different kinds of work in this spiritually related industry. And many people started from a point of, hitting the proverbial pavement face first, face planting the pavement in life.
Yeah.
And often substances can be a part of the process. I mean, for me, luckily, I waited for 6 years to turn 18 before I used psychedelics, because I'd researched it. I started when I was young, studying and training, and then when I did use it, I used it. But I used it for like everything. I wanted to try and do everything on it. So I was lucky that I didn't get into alcohol. The only stuff that I did use was, the good old herb and the psychedelics, which got to the point where I realized, well, I've experienced all I can. I've been really lucky. I've not really been one into alcohol, but there always was Mary Jane. And I was an extensive Mary Jane adventurer. And I'm not adventuring into Mary Jane now just simply because my lungs, I want to stay as fresh and healthy as possible and fit as possible. And we're allowed to grow it here. So if I grow it, I grow premium. But then I'm like £1 a month. I'm like, that's ridiculous, because I do enjoy it. If it wasn't for the health risks, then I would probably, enjoy it all the time, because I really do enjoy the experience of it. But an interesting point that you bring up is that you had back pain. I take it you had been in some kind of an accident or something.
No, I got an epidural with my daughter, and I feel that led to it.
Wow,
young and naive, we don't know any better, I know, but It's my back spine. Looking back now, I just feel it was a lot of trauma and things being released. Really, I can't pinpoint it to that, but to me, it was a lot of trauma release.
My son's mother got addicted to Panados and then later like slightly stronger painkillers. Because of that, she suffered migraines, also a bit of back pain and migraines for a number of years. Those epidurals are quite dangerous. They don't tell you when you take them that, by the way, you're going to suffer for years.
Yeah.
And some people get, like you say, problems in their upper back or pains, or other people get migraines, and they're very often connected. Did you get migraines as well?
Well, I used to take a lot of migraines when I was working in the office because I was on the screen a lot, and I did, but I would rarely get back pain now. I rarely get migraines, thankfully.
Well, that's interesting, because also something that I've noticed is like very often when people go into psychicism, it's usually because on some level it was there when they were younger as a child, and they had possibly we are taught to either repress or suppress based upon our families and our parents, because imaginary friends or any of these experiences tend to scare adults, but they pretend that they're not scared because they're worried about you. Oh, is there something wrong with my kid? Or the family. And so you don't want to freak your parents out, and you also don't want to, get labeled as the child that's weird or whatever, because of social norms. But I'm imagining that there would have probably been things when you were younger. Were there kind of circumstances, imaginary friends, weird times you remember?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a family that was quite open-minded. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, and my grandmother used to read my tea leaves when I was young. And from a young age, from I was 6-7 years of age, we were taught about the fairies and the folklore of Ireland, and ghost stories. But I just had a fascination with the supernatural. I wanted to know about ghosts. And I remember even sitting, I used to sit out my back garden, or especially in the winter when it got dark early, and look up at the sky and just wonder, what's out there, so I always had that wonderment. But yeah, I did have a few crazy experiences happen in my life. First time I was 6 years of age, we'd actually moved home. And we just moved into this new home. And I remember my sister she must have been about 2 years of age. And my mom was downstairs with her. I was in bed. But I remember this force on my chest. And I remember every detail. But I thought I was awake, but I was still sleeping. But I opened my eyes and there was a doll on my chest with a knife. I mean, what went through my mind at 6? Must have watched a scary movie, but this doll was stabbing me in the chest, but I tried to scream out to my mom, and closed my eyes and opened them. They were still there. So obviously I was still sleeping, but that was my first real knowing myself that I remember. But my grandmother has told me stories that when I was 2 years of age, she took me over the fields, but it's where she grew up, but the home where she grew up was no longer there. But I says to her, must have been able to talk young, but I says to her, Granny, you used to live here. And it was just fields at the time. And then there was another point where I was 7 or 8, and I ran downstairs in the middle of the night. Well, it must have been midnight, but my grandmother and my mother were downstairs, and told them to phone the fire brigade because the neighbour's house was on fire. But when they went out, there was nothing there. So they said within about 15 minutes, they could see the smoke, and then they phoned the fire brigade. But little things like that. But the 16 was a weird year for me. That's when I seen spirit with my physical eyes. Woke up in the middle of the night and this lady was standing holding a baby. And again, closed my eyes and opened my eyes again. She was still there, but she started to fade. But I I couldn't take my eyes off her then. I was afraid. I was actually afraid I was, but my heart was flying off me, and run into my grandmother's room and told her, I just seen, I says, Granny, I think I've seen a ghost. But she was like, my granny was very open-minded. She was like, well, did it say anything? Next time maybe ask. But I felt, it's strange because even though I was afraid, she felt, peaceful. I had another experience, and looking back now, I can see what I was being set up for this, really. So about 2-3 months later, I actually experienced a dark entity, where I woke up, this dark force was on top and pinned me down. And I could still hear my grandmother and my mother were downstairs, and I could hear them talk, and the smells, it felt like I was awake, but it was pinned down, but it pushed my head away so I wouldn't look at it. And it was one of the scariest times in my life, and I could feel the darkness from it and feel the energy. And actually, when I forced myself to turn and look, it disappeared. And it took me a while to understand why, because I always feel I'm protected. I do connect with angels, and I'm thinking, well, if I'm so protected, why did I let this into my field? But I again, around that age, I wasn't in a good place. I was going, as when I started drinking, actually, alcohol, the demon, but I had been drinking the night before, and I remember this had happened. But I feel alcohol does open your field to these entities to latch on. And looking back now, I needed to feel the difference between those two spirits. I needed to feel, because when you're in this type of work, you do really need to protect your space and make sure you put out the right intentions and do lots of clearing, because there are entities that can manipulate,
Yeah, that's very interesting. The idea that the alcohol and spirits is the reason why it's called spirits, right?
Yeah.
Because it does enliven the spirits and all of them, And actually, what alcohol does is, and you can feel this more acutely if you actually use cannabis before you use alcohol. Interestingly enough, it pushes you into your body and out of your body, into your body and out of your body, into your body and out of your body. And when you drink enough, that experience is dizziness. When you're coming into your body and pulling out of your body and pulling into your body and pulling out of your body, and it's like a rotating energy. And that sort of gives the opportunity where there's like a space between you and your body where other beings can come and latch on, the spirits.
Yeah.
And become part of your processes. Why people do the craziest things when they're drunk that they would never do. Most homicides are probably when people have been drinking and they're like, I don't know why I did it. Yeah, well, mate, you weren't alone.
Yeah.
So alcohol is extremely dangerous, which is why, like, my son, bless him, he's 9 years old. He's very keen on having a sip of ale because daddy doesn't really drink. But if daddy has one ale, it's got to be a locally brewed ale, and it's just one little bottle. I don't even have a pint. I don't want to feel any alcohol. I do enjoy one bit of ale once in a while, but it's like probably like 6 times, 7 times in a year or something, not even at best, sometimes not at all for a year. Like in summer on a nice evening, but I'm teaching him like my dad taught me. I used to get my little dose of Guinness when I was a boy.
Yeah.
Dad was like, drink a bit of Guinness. It's good for you. A little shot of Guinness for my son. And his wife would go like, you can't give him alcohol. He goes, he's Irish. It's our way. It was Irish. It's like when I was learning to box bare knuckle when I was 5. His wife was freaking out, and he was like, it's the Irish way.
I think they were right. I remember my sister used to dip her pacifier, dummy, whatever, I don't know what she's called over there, into my granny's wine, and it'll help her sleep. Oh, Yeah, it was
Yeah,
medicine.
I think it's healthy for children to get a respect for this when they're young, because I notice a lot of other people that didn't get a respect for it, and it ends up biting them and becoming a lifelong friend.
Yeah,
Where I, like you, I got it out of my system when I was a teenager. By the time I was 21, I was like, I don't want to drink. Yeah. And I was once date raped when I was about, I don't know how old I was, maybe 19. And she had given me a beer, and I didn't want to drink that night. I was just came out to smoke some spliff and play some pool with my mate. We were going to go home, and she was like, "Oh, I'm going to get myself a beer." And I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't need one." I didn't really know her, and she brought me a beer, and I was like, "Okay, well, I won't waste it." I drank the beer. Next thing, I was off my face. Next thing, I woke up in bed with this strange woman. I was like, "Oh my god, where am I? My head. What happened?" My mate said to me the next day, he said, "Dude, something went on last night. I left you alone with that woman for 20 minutes. I played one game of pool. I came back and you were off your face. Did you
yeah,
take something?" I was like, "No." He said, "You did not get drunk. I can tell you now. You had one beer. I watched. I was there." He said, "That woman roofied you." And I was like, then it all sort of made sense, because I thought I'd gotten drunk, but I just couldn't remember anything.
yeah.
So yeah, that was like a wake up call. I was like, I'm not going to drink anymore, because like, it's dangerous, it's not safe.
But looking back now, you probably realize it was orchestrated for you not to drink. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So it's also you bring up an interesting point, with the being able to experience physical reality while seemingly, well, totally awake, but the body's disconnected, right? No control of your mouth, no control of your body. That's like when you're in the etheric state. What people don't realize, it took me, I used to deal with this every day as well, every night. It was pretty intense, but I had entities hunting me. So I would like that pressure that you feel, that's gravity, right? It's because this thing's alive. We're in this living gravitational field. It's whole Earth's alive. It wants us to be stuck. And so you feel all this weight and you can't move. And I used to then see these beings looking for me, like big shadow beings, like creatures. And then my little guy would come and dance for me. And he was funky, and he'd do these little somersaults, and he wore this little hat. And later on, I realized, like when I was older, oh, that's a leprechaun. Okay. Like, that's my little guy, is my buddy. He comes and dances, and all of those things get lost. So did you experience positive beings as well during your times?
yes. Well, the lady, the spirit that came, even though it was, I mean, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night, someone's down on your bed. You're going, your body goes into, fight or flight. But I did feel it's weird. It was like an energy that I could trust. I just knew I could trust. She wasn't going to hurt me. And she faded off. It was the weirdest experience, because I see spirit now in my mind's eye. But yes, I felt her. I also, I did have a weird experience as well, looking back, trying to get my head around. But I know, I always said the angels sent this guy just to go off kilter a little bit. But when I was 17, drinking again, yes, I had a wild life. But I went to like a rave nightclub, but it was in the middle of nowhere. And it was in a hotel. You had to get a bus. So it was about maybe 17 miles from here. And all my friends were on tablets and stuff. So I never really took street drugs or anything. It was just alcohol with me. But they'd all left when I came out. Now, bear in mind, my mum at the time didn't have a telephone in the house. And I had very little money left. And the bus back to my town was gone. And this hotel in the middle of nowhere, I looked around, couldn't see anyone, but I looked into the distance near where the forest was, and there was a little food truck, and I could see a couple of people, a couple of guys there. So I walked towards them to see, did they know, was there any other way to get back to Lurgan, where I was from? But they started to get a little bit frisky, And one of the guys wanted to pull me. Now I looked around, there was nobody else there. And one of the guys wanted to pull me into the forest. And out of nowhere, this guy comes over, grabs me by the arm, and he says, "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." And the guy sort of backed off then, and he says to me, "No, keep walking." But it was weird. I felt I could trust him. It's just that energetic knowing. But so happens this guy was about my age, had a car, wasn't drinking, had no friends with when he drove me home. You know, little divine things like that. I've had so many experiences like that, you know, where people have stepped in just out of nowhere. And that one, yeah, that was weird, you know. But yes, I can tell the difference between energies that are coming in that feel good. If I'm, say for example, if I'm under a lot of stress and I'm not taking care of myself and I haven't been grounding, I know I'm opened up and I can feel the heaviness in my auric field. I can feel it and I have to do a clearing. But when I'm doing my readings, I make sure my space is protected, you know, and I do set the right intentions for it. So when spirit come in, they really give me an idea. They'll show me a little bit of their character when they were here, but they do in an energetic, knowing way tell me that's not who they are now. You still take the essence of who you are over, but this personality and who we think we are, that leaves. But they show me a little bit of that, so I know who I'm connecting with, and I can get evidence for the person I'm reading for.
He's demanding my attention. But that's really interesting. You speak about the spirits. I'm curious. Do some of the spirits that you connect with, and the energetic consciousness, the beings, if you will, do some of them give you the impression that they could be your ancestors, or they could be you from a different time, from a different life? Or
Good question. Honestly, I feel anything connected with my ancestors is already within me. You know, it's in my DNA, and I can tap into that whenever I want. So when I do tap in myself, I do feel it's not just me or my higher self or my oversoul. It's my ancestors, my ancestral line. It's the wisdom they've carried that I can tap into then. You know, I can't always tap in, and we don't know everything, but instead of reaching outside, and this is counterproductive or productive for my work, but instead of always reaching outside and always going to outside help, you know, I always say to people, if you can sit with yourself for 5, 10, 15 minutes, the answer always comes. You know, so, you know, we are all connected. I try to disconnect a little bit with spirit, because I feel this is the person I'm reading for. It's their loved one. You know, I don't go down the rabbit hole too much, but yes, I do feel when spirit come through, it's weird because I try to force my clairvoyance a little bit because I'm visual, but I'm more claircognate. You know, I just have a knowing. But, you know, seeing spirit in my mind's eye, they'll give me sort of a description on how they look. It's sometimes like looking through fog, but I get more of an energetic impression and symbols from spirit.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you say you try to push your clairaudient abilities, and that's quite interesting. You know, I suppose those are easier. Like me personally, I often have audio happening, audio visions, audio, and a lot of the clients that I deal with, for example, they come to me and they're like, I'm like, you're just looking for common sense. You're just looking for someone with common sense to just break down, like give you some common sense. That's all it is, really. And 9 out of 10 times, people already know what it is that you're telling them. And they go, well, I suppose I knew that. just didn't really realize it. It's like, yeah, you needed to hear it from the outside. So people are often just looking for confirmation of what
Yeah.
they think they might know.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear another person, a stranger, saying it verbatim is what they needed.
Yeah.
And so that's like you say, a lot of it is just tapping into common sense, and people sometimes can't. So getting back to your comments about pushing your clairvoyance,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is sort of a way to revisit your training. Obviously, your first point of awakening your potentials was to go through the dark night of the soul, which is a fundamental and important part of the process. Shadow work is key. Sometimes we're driven to do our shadow work. We've got a keyboard dismantler here on a mission. And when he's not dismantling keyboards, he wants to dismantle me and my jewelry. And, oh, sorry. He's in a funny little mood.
Go on.
But yeah, go and play with the dogs. What kind of pushing do you do for your clairvoyant? Like, how do you specifically tune in and activate that proverbial system, if we can use that word, the clairvoyant systems?
Yeah, using your imagination. To me, it's the same space. So just tapping in, just when you close your eyes or meditate, just visualizing. It's the first, whenever I didn't know anything about spirit, and it's a misconception, I just have to say as well, it's a misconception that there's only some of us born with a gift. I teach that we're all born, it's an innate ability for us all, to tap into. It's just learning how to listen to that inner voice. But whenever I was practicing, I wanted to see the evidence. We're taught you have to see. So when I close my eyes, I try to visualize, but spirit were coming through in my mind's eye, and would have showed symbols. English or spoken language is not their thing. So even now, still, whenever I'm tapping in, I will initially go to my third eye, and I'll see an energy, or I'll see impressions, or see like their face or a body outline. But then my claircognizant kicks in, my knowing. It's weird because spirit could just be standing there in my mind's eye, and I get loads of messages. A little bit telepathic, I suppose. But yes, it's the first place I go to. I get the energetic feel. I'll feel the energy, and spirit are very clever. If say they were angry in this lifetime, or they were miserable all the time, I feel that when they initially come through, but it's non-threatening. I can feel the anger from them as if it's your sibling that's angry, or if they were I don't know, shy or whatever. It's one of the first impressions I get from spirit is how they were. Basically, I suppose they'll show me the worst of them and then the best of them, so that the person I'm reading for can identify with them. And also, I can't demand that a certain spirit come through. Some people will come and go, I want to speak with my aunt, or I want to speak with my mom or my dad. I don't know who's going to come through, and maybe that's not the right spirit for them at that time. It's on spirit's terms, not on mine.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like going back to your experience with the doll, the little knife wielding doll. Sounds funny, but I'm sure it's not that funny when you're under the knife.
No, or 6 years of age, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that vision of the doll wielding a knife was your unconscious way of trying to put a symbolic representation in the physical I consider this world the fourth dimension because we're in time, right? Time is the fourth dimension. But the 3D kind of contextual embodiment of something that is abstract and spiritual in nature, and that the reason you experienced that dull was because you weren't able to see it in its true form. So your imagination gave it a body that you could make sense out of.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, do you know that experience? I've tried to look back because it felt similar to the dark force I felt when I was 16. You know, I feel I've went through little things in my life like that to not to overwhelm me, but to sort of keep me awake a little bit, so that whenever I was coming back to this work, it wasn't, you know, too outside the box. You know, whenever I actually started to do my psychic work and mediumship work, it felt natural. You know, it felt like a full cycle. You know, it was, you know, when I was a child, the fascination with, you know, my granny used to pour herself a glass of wine, and then I had the cup with the tea leaves ready for her because she would have only read when she had a glass of wine for some reason. But yeah, just I always feel as well that, you know, our purpose, or one of our purposes with many, but what's gonna bring us joy when we're older is the seeds planted when we're young. You know, it's what excites you as a child more than likely will excite you when you're older.
You know, my granny used to do the tea leaves too, according to my late dad. I think it's an Irish tradition.
Yeah.
A cup of tea, read tea leaves, which is quite interesting. So I wanted to go back to your time when you started to actively pursue your spiritual psychic development program, and you said you went to a college in London. What kind of training program, what kind of exercises, what kind of path did they send you on specifically, and what kind of exercises and things
Yeah.
did they?
Well, you stay awake. So the first time I went, basically they'll start off with meditation. It's very important. It's so important to be able to quieten your mind when you're connecting with spirit. So we would have sat in meditation. There was so many different ways, but you know, Arthur Findlay, they teach everyone to sit in their power. Basically is just to feel your body, to feel, you know, to ground yourself first of all is very important. I think, to be honest, I will tell you a couple of things, but this work is simple. We know it. You know, it doesn't take a whole 2-3 year training program. We can do it in one day if we're really dead, you know, if you let go of the fear. But, you know, if you sit in your body and close your eyes, because our sight takes in too much perception. So just to get a feeling, and your intention and your imagination is everything in this body. So if you need to raise your vibration to connect with spirits, because their vibration obviously is way higher than no physical body. So I just would imagine like a energy field, like a radio tower. And when you close your eyes, that, you know, I was breathing in white light, and then you send that out, and then it fills the room. The light fills the room, and then it fills the universe. You know, that's you intentionally raising your vibration. So spirit they'll lower theirs a little bit so you blend. So it's not like spirit are there, it's some big grand gesture and they walk into the room. It's so subtle. It takes practice to actually feel, you know, what spirit feels like. So I do have a sensation on my body when certain spirit come through. But they actually done little art things as well. We would have done our own, you know, done our own oracle cards, but it was our energy, and then would have done readings on these weird designs. But mainly it was about connecting with your own body and feeling the energy. It's this subtle energies, that takes practice. And also discovering, first of all, you know, you have all these clairs, but everyone's going to have a stronger one, first of all. And then you can develop the other, you know, as like yourself, you said, you're clairaudient, you know, and a lot of times when voices come through, it's my own voice, you know, but it's not my words. I haven't been thinking about it. My mind hasn't been in it. But yes, there's so many little things that people can do if they're really interested. But I feel you really need to have a passion for it. You know, some people just want to wake up in the morning and, you know, all their gifts is online, but it's like any other gift. It's like, you know, musician, you know, the gift, it's born within you. It's something you have the passion, but you still have to train. You still have to work at it. And I mean, just because I do this work doesn't mean my training stopped. You know, I still have to keep on top of things and keep my body right and keep my mind right and stay grounded or at the floating at the floating every day. But yes, there's lots of different practices to do, and they do keep them simple. You know, they're not overwhelming. I highly recommend anyone that's looking to get into this to go to Arthur Findlay. It's great.
Yeah. I've got a cheeky little guy here. He's playing the fool with me, chewing me from every angle. Whoops. Okay, he's going to play with my phone.
I love a bird.
No, it's the same guy. He's just up, down. He's everywhere. He's discovered that there's a button underneath my toenail that can take him to the top floor. All he has to do is remove the toenail. So he tries.
Oh,
and then they've got pretty strong little beaks. So it's his way of saying, dude, attention, me. Yeah, you know, it's very interesting what you say about the particular senses. I spent a lot of time training my senses over, you know, decades, and I think that's something that we don't realize how much of our experience of reality is tempered by our thoughts and our mind. I mean, neuroscience would acknowledge that all the senses except for smell route through the thalamus, and in the thalamus, the information gets reorganized, the sensory information, before it gets to the parietal lobes, where like the dream of reality is imagined, right? And then we're living in this imagined reality, and how much of what we experience is a mental emanation. And so developing these senses is a key. And so with that in mind, you know, you did mention as well that when you've been communicating, you see these beings and people, beings, whatever they are. I've wondered, like, do you think that the beings that you're communicating with are always beings that were in physical form, or are many of them possibly beings that are come from another field of being? For example, like Fae, or could they be beings from other parallel or hyperdimensional states, if that makes sense?
yeah.
Or do you think that they are mostly beings that lived in the physical and have crossed over? Or what are your perspectives of most of the beings, or many of the beings that you connect with?
Well, if I'm doing a reading for someone, their loved one, I feel it's always the beings. It's weird because I'm looking to my left because I have certain sides of my body. But yes, when they come through from my left, they're usually spirit that's had physical form. But I do connect with the angels, and I know I see angels as energy. They're energy forms. So their vibration is different than spirit. It's not that they're any better or there's an hierarchy or anything like that. It's just they're just on a different frequency level. So I have experienced beings that haven't been in physical form, and then the ones that have. There's more of a, it's hard to explain. Spirit still have their personality. They still have that essence, because it's like it's like a memory when they come through. That's the way I can explain it. It's like I'm remembering this person's past that I've never met, you know. But it's like someone's told me a story about them and I'm reliving it in my head. That's the way they come through. They'll show me a little bit of their life as if I've lived it with them and I'm remembering it. You know, but with other spirits, you know, with connecting with angels, it's even though their frequency's different, it feels so natural. It doesn't feel like like your body's shaking or anything. It feels, I don't know, maybe it's just a connection. It doesn't feel like your breath's taken away or anything. It feels comfortable. It feels safe. That's the word I'm looking for.
My clients sometimes also, sometimes when I'm on video with clients, they keep seeing me looking over my shoulders. It's like, is everything okay? I'm going like, yeah. Like, I'm just listening. So when you say they're behind your shoulder, that's quite funny for me. So yeah, you know, that is an interesting perspective. And you know, from a shamanic perspective, what I've noticed through my time and my training and my experience is that science is very limited in its understanding of the human condition. And DNA is considered to just be like codes written down. But like, I'm convinced I can hear my DNA vibrating. Like if I listen really deeply, I can hear different fields. And there's some very fine field resonating out there. And I'm like, that must be my connection to my body, you know? And they say that like 99% of, come now. Stop biting me. That's really, really sore, my darling. Okay, Daddy will stroke you. Daddy will stroke you. Daddy will stroke you, okay? He's demanding stroking, or else he's holding my fingers hostage.
Spoilt.
Yeah, he's feisty. That's why his name is Agathon. He's like a little warrior. And so this idea that our junk DNA is just junk. I love the way they say junk DNA. And so everything that you experience physically in your body and all the DNA that makes your body and your mind, because your DNA also is a code for your mental space. So people don't realize this. And so you've got this huge mental space that's encompassed in your DNA. That's less than 1% of your DNA. It's like a fraction of your DNA. And so the vast majority of the DNA is like what they say junk. To me, this is our ancestral memories. All of our ancestors that have come before us have loaded something into the DNA that we've kept. And so all of our experiences, like I downloaded things. Somehow I downloaded martial arts as a child. Well, I drowned and then I, everything was different and I had all these crazy experiences when I was really, really little.
You drowned?
Yeah, I drowned. Yeah, wow. Yeah. Pretty traumatic, but quite powerful experience. And so I downloaded judo. Never trained in judo. Apparently, I've got a senior grade in judo. I don't know. I never did any classes. I just happened to go into a grading one day and got a senior grade because apparently I can do classical techniques. To me, I was just playing. But so I didn't follow it because it seemed ridiculous. And all the other children were so jealous of me because they'd been training for years and I was now senior grade to them. I was like, I don't know. I've never done it. And then I was called a liar by the teacher. And he kept harassing me for about 6 months. He wanted me to come and train. He was like, I'll turn you into a world champion. No. I was like, dude, this is too much for me. But also drumming. I sat by a fire, meditating on the flames at a festival once, many, many years ago, decades ago. And someone put a drum in my hand. I was like, okay. Started playing the drum, and next thing I had like black hands, black arms, and all these guys around me, they were black, they were like dressed funny. They were wearing like bones and weird stuff. And I was like, I'm dressed like that too. This is really weird. And then I like slip back and I'm now sitting by the fire. Oh, I'm me again. And then I'd slip back and I'm them again. Or I'm that person.
Wow.
And I kept slipping between these two realities. It felt like I was slipping into a parallel reality. And then my friend stopped me and said, we didn't know you were a drum master. I said, what do you mean drum master? I didn't drum. So then I was a drum master after that and never learned to drum. I downloaded it from another life. But it was already inside of me. It's a memory. And this is an interesting thing, like what you said about memories. I wonder if the baboons are here. Oh, we might have the baboons here. The dogs are getting excited. If my Malamud starts to
Different
howl.
way of living over there, isn't it?
No, it's lovely. I love the baboons.
Love it.
So yeah, they're cool. They can be cheeky. Sometimes they break up. Are beautiful. They've broken all our big terracotta potters or plants. That's a problem.
Mischievous.
I stopped buying them because they climb everywhere and they throw everything over and they smash everything. It's just playing, the little ones. So anyway, often when I'm reading and I'm telling people, well, this, and I'm speaking in the past tense, and this is something that you said triggered this. It's like you're remembering the past, but the past hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And so I'm always speaking in the past tense to people. What do you mean? I mean, oh, sorry. I'm remembering something, but it hasn't happened yet. That's what it's like. It's like you're remembering, oh, right, yeah, that and that's happened. And that, what do you mean happened? Oh, it hasn't happened yet. Sorry. But that's slipping into the memory thing. That's quite an interesting point. Like, what do you think about the memory in terms of this experience of psychicism? Have you had a lot of memories that aren't from this life, from other lives, or
well, that's strange. I haven't really got into past life stuff, but I have written a book and it was
what's the book called?
Azanthian. It's not, I haven't even got it edited yet. So I finished it last year and I've been given out to a couple of beta readers and I'm just waiting on an editor now. I'm not a professional writer, so it needs polished up a little bit, but it's been on and off for about 7 years. So I just, like yourself, got little downloads. Was listening to music and it felt like a memory. And it's weird because, no, it was actually longer than that because it was actually before I went to Arthur Findlay. So I just thought, I have a brilliant imagination. So just had this, was listening to this type of music. It was like epic classical music a little bit, but had this memory of someone's wedding and just went along with it. But it was weird because I knew it wasn't on Earth, even though the people looked human. So I remember going into the office and typing in, are there other beings on other planets that look human? And then I looked at it and thought, oh God, delete that before anyone sees it. But it felt like a memory. So as the year went on, I was getting other little parts of the story, to the point after a year, I just thought, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to start writing. But it felt familiar, but otherworldly, if that makes sense. To me, it felt like the most beautiful version of Earth that you could ever imagine. Peaceful. So yeah, I wrote about this race of people, and it's between that world and Earth, set between 1969 and 1986 in America. It was crazy.
That sounds really awesome. Sounds like something people would want to read as well. Sounds fascinating, and it's a world somewhere else. Like we don't know where.
Yeah, yes, it's a world somewhere else. But yeah, that's as close to me visualizing past lives as it gets. I wrote a book about it.
Well, that's interesting. The whole idea of parallel worlds and parallel realities, and just how these realities come to be, is an interesting perspective. I find trees for me are like quite a powerful doorway into spirit realm. I've got my drums. My girlfriend's also, she's very rich in the ancestral medicine, and so we both sort of relate to the rhythm principle, drums. If I get into a rhythm, I can just float off out of my body. So have you had a lot of out of your body experiences where you've gone off elsewhere? You mentioned music a few times, so I take it you use music as a cue for your concentration.
Well, I was actually walking, but yes, music. I use music more to inspire me, or depends on the sometimes frequency music just to ground me and for meditation and stuff. But sorry, I'm way off. My mind's way off. Ask me the question again.
No,
out of body. Yes, well, not as many as I would like sometimes, but I did have a crazy I've had a couple of weird dreams and things that I know weren't dreams, but I did have one strange out of body experience a couple of years ago, actually, when I was in America. And it was one of my first breathwork classes I was doing. And they were doing, well, anyway, sorry, I have a Mercury mind here. She was doing a countdown and into the meditation. And she was counting down from 10 to 1. Before she got to 1, I was out of my body. So I could imagine, obviously it was like in my mind's eye, but I felt lighter. But it was like the ceiling opened up. I could see the stars. And the next thing I was in what I now call the void. And it's so strange. It's near enough like you feel as if you still have your body, but you don't. And I could see from my left this like Egyptian god. His skin was really black, and he had this weird headpiece on. It was like a gold horn that came out the front. But he walked down these steps into nothingness, but he wasn't aware of me. It was like maybe he was in another timeline, I don't know. But over to the right, there was like a huge ball of smoke. It was like mist. And I was talking to people, but there was nobody there, and I was asking in my, like, telepathically, what's that? And they said, well, that's Earth. And I says, well, why is it a ball of smoke? And they goes, well, that's consciousness. And the download I got really from that was, that is what the majority make it. It's not flat, it's not round, it's a dimensional plane. So I know there's too many people get hung up on flat Earth, round Earth, but it's just consciousness, really. But that was one of the major out of body experiences I had.
Was it a she?
No, it was more of a they. It wasn't female. You mean the Earth or the voices?
The black skinned deity with the horn.
No, that was a male. That was a man. Yeah. But the voices, it wasn't one voice. It was like a collective of energy. But yeah, I was just wondering, why do I need to see this? But it started to make sense after, the whole debate. I would have been like, no, the Earth is flat. It makes common sense. Don't believe NASA. But now it's shifted from that to, it's not solid form at all.
Okay, now we're getting into interesting ideas. The shape of the Earth. It's something I can't quite put my finger on, and I don't really, because I think it's like there's a lot to it, as an emanation of consciousness. But that is curious. So what do you think of the physical reality we're in? I mean, you mentioned flat or disc or ball. What
The
could you elaborate a little bit
well,
of?
I feel it goes way beyond our conception of it. But if someone was to say, right, choose, I would say it was flat Earth, because I did an ayahuasca journey, and I remember after my first little shot, lying down and looking up, and I could see like a dome, and there was like geometric shapes throughout this dome, and I just thought, right, it's just me getting ready to go deeper. But there was another guy there at the other side of the fire. The next day, I said he's seen a dome with all the geometric shapes, made up. So there's too much. There's too much, and I'm still digging in. I don't go too much into it. I just try to live my life as best I can, but it does raise its head now and then. But I do use logic sometimes, and my logic mind tells me we're stationary.
Yeah, look, I mean, common sense is there's no brainer. NASA's full of lies. We know that. Like we know that the space landing wasn't what they said it was. There's enough evidence out there. There's enough smoking guns. There are enough NASA officials that have gone public. There are enough test pilots that have spoken out, and these are all credible military personnel that have come forward. So, we know that NASA can't be trusted. And the word NASA, actually, in Hindustani, in Vedic law, that's where I first came across the word NASA, is it's a tingling sensation here when you're starting to spin really fast, like you're going to spin out of your body. And so the sadhus in India, they have these rituals with charas, right? And the chilam. And the chilam goes round and round, and it's got to be like high THC. And the point is to activate the nasa to spin you out of your body. That's the purpose of the ritual. And so that's the word nasa. The nasa means like almost like it's not chakra. So you got chakra and you got chakra. And chakra means dizzy, spinning.
Okay.
In Hindi or Vedic languages. And so nasa is that point being activated that like has got to do with dream reality. And then in Hebrewic, nasa means to be deceptive.
Mm-hmm.
So they're selling us a deceptive dream.
Yeah.
That makes us drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So drunk that the very nature of reality is not really real. And so that you find all these ancient cultures. It's the Maya and Vedic cosmology, dream time as well. It's like a big part of the shamanic tradition is understanding that this is a dream. We just seem awake, but it's a dream, just like any other dream. And at some point, this dream will end, and we'll be in another dream.
Yeah.
And so the nature of reality isn't fixed, but that's really interesting. Like I've done the math, and the idea that we are spinning at the speed of sound. Because that's the notion. We are moving at the speed of sound now, which is all good and well. But that means that if I were to shoot a bullet from a gun high enough, right, it should reach the point where it's traveling towards the west at the same speed of which it's traveling upwards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if I shoot it up and it goes up into the air, I don't know, a mile, right? If it's like a strong bullet, for example, then it should end up a good few hundred yards or that distance towards the west. But that's not really how it works. The same thing for aircrafts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're flying towards the west and the world is traveling past you, if you're flying towards the east and the world is traveling the opposite direction at the speed of sound and you're not breaking the sound barrier, how do you get anywhere?
I know.
It just
I know.
doesn't. The common sense doesn't add up. Oh, but the atmosphere is moving. And no, I'm sorry, because the atmosphere is a fluid medium. And so fluid medium, depending on altitude, you're going to have different movement rates. And so these aircrafts are flying at 20,000 feet. And I remember being at 20,000 feet. And I always used to go into the cockpits with the airplanes, with the pilots when I was first traveling, because it was before 2001, 2000. It was before the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
2000, was it 2001?
2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a long time. But before then, I always used to get taken into the cockpits. I always used to be like alone, and I was always friendly with the air hosts and the air hostesses, and they always used to make a big fuss over me. And like the girls used to like flirt with me because of whatever, because I wasn't interested in that. I'm just said a bit, dude, like, you know, I'm not interested in that. But then they'd oh, like, and I'd be like, oh, getting bored. I want to stretch my legs. They said, you want to come to the cockpit? And they'd take me to the cockpit, and I'd meet the pilot, and I'd go chat with the pilot, and I'd be like, wow. And I noticed that the windows were weird. And I was like, wow, the world looks like weird. And he says, yeah, these windows are designed to make curvature. And I was like, well, why? He says, well, it doesn't look round. I was like, doesn't look round, okay. So it got me thinking when I looked out of the horizon that it didn't seem quite right from a perspective of really high, looking at the world. 20,000 feet, the world should look different.
Yeah.
But it didn't look that different. So there's definitely a perceptual thing. I think that reality is an expression of the field of consciousness, and what we think is physical reality is a dream that we concoct within our consciousness field. And that... There we go. Oh, go and play with the dogs until he comes back to my toes. I think that like the nature of reality is a very interesting question, because when I left the world, it was inside out and I was on the inside. It's the first thing I noticed, like when I drowned, because like there's agony, there's all of that stuff. But when you pop out of your body, it's like literally at the pop. Then you're inside. And I'm like, I'm on the inside, but I thought I was on the outside. So the mind does this. It creates this inversion of reality. The same way I suppose our eyes are supposed to see things upside down and turn them right way around. The visual, it's doing that on inside out levels. So you can experience perceptively. So the nature of reality, I think, is a big thing. And I believe that it's been a psyop to keep people arguing about, is it flat, is it round, or is it concave? Concave is also one that makes a lot of sense. And so I've got a good friend who's done a lot of work in concave, and he'll swear blind it's concave. And I'm like, well, I think it is concave, but I think it's also flat. I think it's also round. And people are like, what do you mean? I believe that there's a different way of experiencing reality. I think it's like in our consciousness field. Yeah. And that we can experience reality in different modes. In this mode of experience, it's like this. In that mode of experience, it's like this. In this mode, it's like this. And that reality isn't fixed, that we can literally influence it with our thoughts. You know, the whole of reality.
And that's what I got from that out-of-body experience, just seeing it as like a ball of smoke. And it was just like saying, well, Earth is just consciousness. It's how you perceive it. It's your experience, you know.
And that's like a big bone of contention between a lot of people. I've seen so many fights. I went into a flat earthers group and I caused so much trouble with them. Because, well, I don't know, like there were all these people arguing, and I just started taking the mickey out of everybody, because people get so aggressive. They get so aggressive.
When you challenge people's beliefs, they get feisty.
Well, no, I mean, there were different factions within the group. It's a massive group. It's 1,000 people, and there's flat earthers and there's round earthers, but everybody's getting aggressive towards everybody else. So I then become the clown. I start taking the piss, going on the crack with everybody. I just start taking the mickey out of everybody, and people don't know how to relate to this, you know, because I can't think of it as a serious argument. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, mate. Like, it doesn't really matter like what the shape
Yeah.
of the earth is. To be honest, there are more important things. Like there are people starving right now in Africa. To me, that seems like more relevant. You know,
Yeah.
there's people getting blown up in Iran. There's like financial system being rewired. Our legislation is changing. We're losing our rights. Our sovereign rights are being taken away from us one by one. Like, what are our grandkids going to do? You know, what kind of a world are they going to live in? These, like the food. Look what they've done to the food, people.
Yeah. That's what I
Yeah, if you're
mean.
not growing your own
How's,
food,
how's
then
this information going to help my life?
yeah. So I do think that, but it's very interesting, you know, when you say you saw the dome with the geometry. Do you remember what geometry you saw? Was it octahedron?
No,
Was it an octahedron?
it was just shapes. It was just like hexagons, and mostly hexagons, and there was triangles. There was other shapes. There was that weren't in the mathematical system. It was hard to explain, but it was like it was weird. It was like a pulse was running through. It wasn't just like there were solid forms. It was they were lighting up as if there was a pulse. I don't know. I've actually flown in an aircraft and looked out and seen the northern lights just outside the plane, and you could see like a ripple of a pulse going through it, and that's the only way I could explain this pulse going around the geometric figures.
Were they bound by pinpoints of light called stars?
What do you mean?
Were these shapes outlined by pinpoints of light called stars, like stars? Were they like, and were they 3D blocks, shapes?
Oh no! It was just an outline. There weren't blocks. It was, and it was like a yellowy gold outline. It was weird. No, it was just the thinnest outline, and you could see the black beyond it.
Right, interesting. Yeah, I've had experiences where I've seen like the whole heavens as a dome of what looked like blocks put together, but each block is a constellation or something, and it's like it's a block. It's a 3D thing.
Oh right, okay, yeah. I know what you're
They're
saying.
like blocks, and you can literally see the wheel of the sky, like the constellations were there. You could see them. They were outlined. They were colored. They were like, it was intense. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting. He found the button that goes to the top floor again. It's very interesting to reach into that level of consciousness and start to question. So you obviously question the nature of your physical experience deeply, I take it. So what would you say to people that come to you when they start questioning their own sense of reality, and they think they're going a bit nuts because the world has trained us that if you're neurodiverse, you're crazy, right? If you fit into that little narrow spectrum, you're fine. But if you're experiencing anything outside of that ball of wax, then there must be something wrong with you. You need to go. What would you say to people that are starting to potentially doubt their own sanity because they're experiencing aspects of reality that do not conform to the group mind view perspective?
Well, it depends where they're at. You know, there's so many stages, but don't just wake up and with all the information. That would be too overwhelming. And to me, I find that we get a little bit of information, we let some programming go, then we'll let some programming go, get more. You know, it's near enough like you have to go through different gateways to get more knowledge. But I usually listen to what their experience. I let them tell me. It's not up for, my experience is my truth. Everybody's going to have their own. Doesn't mean, what I believe is their reality. So I will listen. But I wish I was that reserved. Sometimes I will be honest, I do jump into the rabbit hole. I love to see people start to question things, so you have to be very mindful of not overwhelming too much information. We do discover the majority of our knowledge ourselves. We do get some. If you're listening to anything from the outside and it resonates, then it's for you. But what resonates with me mightn't be resonating with them, basically, is what I'm saying. So I will listen to where they're at. And I usually get people to ask their questions themselves. Is this real? Is it not real? The answer always comes. But like, what level are you talking about? Just waking up from the beginning, or?
Well, I mean, when people have had experiences that cause them to question reality, because we've been trained to think that if we're not experiencing the same reality as other people, even though that reality is not definitive or defined, that we're crazy. And a lot of people end up on medication because they think they need medication because they've experienced a natural phenomenon that most people filter out. I think we filter out reality. We filter out a lot of reality. And we've been taught in our education systems to filter out a lot of reality because it's easier for us to be controlled if we've filtered out a lot of reality and we're living in a reality that's been predefined for us by those that wish for us to have a particular worldview, because worldview is fundamentally important if one wants to manipulate you.
Yeah.
It's called gaslighting, isn't it? So we've been gaslit as kids by the schools. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Education is really largely gaslighting. History is taught to us as if it's fact. And you get older and you go, hold on. Oh, you mean they're different opinions? Yeah. Oh, we were taught they were facts. No. Physics, we were taught they were, oh, you mean there's different opinions? Oh, and that's just the more popular opinion. But we were taught they were facts. So all these facts that we get taught as children, it's like nonsense.
Yeah.
They're not facts, they're opinions. And but I think that the reason we're taught them as facts is because of the manipulation that we see going on around us. And the whole idea of democracy, no, you're free to vote. Okay, but you're only allowed to vote for those three guys. We decide who you vote for. Like,
and we've already decided who it's going to be anyway.
Exactly. And we will make sure that you vote correctly because we've got lots of money to spend on advertising, right?
Yeah.
And we will release some information about that one, that he's a bad guy. If you're accidentally going to vote for him, something will come up. There'll be a smear campaign.
Yeah.
But so like it's all bought and paid for, one way or another. So the people that are questioning the physical reality that they're living in, and they are like on the edge, how do you bring them back in?
Well, first of all, you tell them they're not crazy. Way to hear my story. But the only thing I can do for others is share my wisdom and my truth. I will say, first of all, you're not crazy. But I am always mindful also, where they're at. From my own journey, I remember, like, before I realized what a crazy world this was that we're actually living in, so I was actually going through my healing journey and my discovered mediumship, and the world was just great and everything was love and light. And then of course, the more I opened up, more truths going, hold on, you need to see what sort of a world you're actually living in here. Are you free? So that overwhelmed me, so I have went again down, had another dark night of the soul when I realized some of the corruptions that was really going on in the world. So I feel whoever comes to me is going to get my story, but I always do start with, you're not crazy. But I usually end up sounding like the crazy one anyway. But I don't know. How do you deal with that?
Well, I send people on rabbit holes. Like,
no, well, I have
there's only
done
one
that.
way to do it. Yeah. Become more crazy.
I have.
Until you're cured.
I went down the rabbit hole, especially in 2020, But I realized that the more I spoke about the crazy stuff, the more people distanced. So I wasn't getting through. The only actually turned it around. You know, people were actually saying, Michelle, you're scaring us. And then I thought, I'm doing the fairy work that those ones I'm talking about is doing, you know. So I turned it around and started to do a meditation and work every Friday. And everyone loved it because it was just a little bit of a quiet time, you know, within the busyness. And when I started changing my own energy and bringing myself back to myself again, people actually were coming to me and saying, do you remember you were talking about, what did you mean? You know, start getting curious. But whenever I was bombarding with the dark stuff, nobody wanted to know. So you have to be very mindful of where people are at. You know, if you want to see the land.
Yeah, I don't know if you've watched any of our lives that we do, because a lot of the stuff comes up, and I'm just like, I like to be open to everything, keep an open fly, open mind, keep it rational, keep it grounded. So I like personally, you know, I've known people that have lost their lives due to conspiracies,
Yeah.
because it can send you out, it can disconnect you from your network of your, well, not your network. It can disconnect you from your support network, from your loved ones, from your close friends.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen, and I've seen people end up not being alive because they become so depressed and psychologically unwound by disconnecting. And so there's a danger to researching the physical. Oh, I'm sorry, my darling. They didn't mean to bump you. He's under the table and he's really dismantling my finger. So I accidentally bumped him when I moved my hand. I've got to build this pain threshold up a little bit with him. It's not bleeding, so it's okay. He's getting really cheeky. But yeah, you know, I think it's like, when I say like send them on the rabbit hole, I think shadow work is like really fundamentally important. And I push people towards doing shadow work because we need to do our shadow work, because when we look out into the world and we see the darkness in the world, our own perceptual limits, which is encompassing our repressed and suppressed emotional content and mental ideas, will become the shadow that we become entrapped by, our own reaction. So, you know, I don't know if you've seen. I did the Bush Whisperer Speaks series. It's 108 lectures and another one of 108 lectures. It's like these days you can actually add them on as I think they're called courses on YouTube. They changed it a little while ago. I was like, great. I moved from podcast to courses because they're actually courses. But in that, it starts off with like sky cinema and the ocean, and like sitting with the ocean, feeling her, watching the sky cinema. Do you remember watching the clouds when you were a kid?
Yeah.
And watching the cartoons? You still do, yeah?
Yeah.
Cartoons. It's a cartoon network above you. Like, it's a continual cartoon network.
I know. I read nothing. I'm actually looking right at them now.
Yeah, I love the skies. My girlfriend and I are often like looking at cartoons, you know, different cartoons, clouds, whatever. But and everything's a cartoon, really. If you look at a rock, I taught my child how to see the earth spirits. You can see them in the rocks. There's like cartoon networks in the rocks, in the earth, in the mountains. You can see them. They're there, and they can communicate with you. If you can see them, they can see you, and this is a two-way. But so yeah, I always send people into the shadow work to go and look deep within themselves and start to question their own reality, because I think that this is really like important, especially in this day and age. We've been taught to blindly accept and believe that we can trust our food. And I think food for me is really important because, you know, my boy is 9 years old. So like, I've got to think about his body development and his brain. You know, what nutrition he's getting is the key. So I take it you have a special diet that you follow, like healthy food, or what is your diet? Are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? Are you...
Well, yeah. Well, I haven't eaten meat or fish, or most dairy. God, now near 10 years, about 8 years. But yes, I was vegan for, I don't even like that term, vegan. I don't, but
They're
also
aggressive.
for
They're
yeah,
really
for
aggressive
what,
people.
for, you know, for your people watching, yes, I vegan for about a year, but it was just so difficult. It was when I was in America, it was so difficult to social, not that we socialize, you know, I don't drink, and but it was hard to eat out. It was hard to find healthy food in America. It's crazy. America is even worse than here. So I went
What
back
state
to
are you talking about? In the
Utah.
which of Utah?
It's beautiful, yeah. So even now, I'm not going to deny myself a little bit of real butter, or, you know, if I want some cream on the cake. So I have a rule of about 80-90% healthy, 10% joy. I call it. I'll have, you know, if I want to go out and I want to have potato chips some night, you know, I'm not going to deny myself. I'm not going to be so strict. But I used to be strict, but it was horrible. It was. So yeah, most of the time, honestly, I would say mostly, I call it my healthy liquid diet now. But I mainly would eat a lot of watermelon juice, a lot of smoothies and soups and things like that. Yeah.
And raw food? Are you big into raw
Well,
food
just,
or
well, not as much as I would like.
salads? Yeah.
No, I like more homely. You know, I do love salads in the summer, but I would have like soups and stews. The only thing raw, I'm having my watermelon juice. So I put a whole watermelon and juice it. You know, trying to think. My dad's quite boring now when I'm starting to speak it out loud. You know, you know, raw fruit the odd time, but yeah, that would be about the height of it.
I always tease my girlfriend. I'm like you only come to visit me because I make food. No, I'm passionate about food, and I spent like a lot of time traveling, and so I do a lot of different kinds of food. My boy is very aware of the fact that like there's no restaurant that makes food like home.
Oh, lovely. Good
It's
for
better
you.
than restaurants. Yeah, I'm always disappointed if I go to restaurants. The only thing I'm not disappointed in is pizzas, because I can't really make pizzas very well. But my girlfriend makes amazing pizza bases. She's got the art down to the pizza base philosophy. So I can make pizzas at home, but I don't really have the right kind of oven. You know, you want a wood fire oven, and so if I go out and eat a pizza, I can't eat pastas. I can't eat out because I'm like, damn, I would have made that risotto better. No, they didn't put enough mushrooms in. They didn't do it right. No, this is mostly rice. Oh, that pasta, it's mostly pasta. When I make a pasta, it's got to be 40% veg. Like it's
Same,
got to be
yeah.
40. It's got to have a presence, a nutrient presence, and then the flavors are there because of what you put in the food. So we tend to eat a lot of starch, too much, and so
Yeah, Ireland's the same with the potatoes. Yeah.
yeah. But I think like it's really fundamental, and like you say, you've chosen a vegetarian diet. I take it, is that because you've noticed that your sensitivity is better when you eat vegetarian food?
Again, it was. I used to love meat, to be honest. I loved to go and have my steak and chicken. I think it was around about a year after I started training to do this that I started just getting a lot more awareness of the energy that we were taking into our body. And, you know, I remember sitting down and when I used to watch TV years ago, but I remember a documentary about the inhumane way, you know, dealing with the kill animals. And it's not something I would normally watch. I'd be like, nope, I just keep a blind eye. I don't need to know. But I sat and watched it, and then I was like, right, that's it. That's made my mind up. So it was like a feeling of, you know, what am I actually taking into my body if I'm eating animal? You know, and now it's got to now after not eating meat, it is for my love of animals and love of creatures. I'll not even kill a fly, you know. Everything I see is divine and beautiful. And I think, I actually can't believe I used to eat these gorgeous creatures, you know. But it is to do with energy as well. And I do honor my food before I cook it. I put good energy into it when I'm cooking it. If I'm in a bad mood, I won't want to eat that, you know, because people don't realize.
So would you say that since you stopped eating meat, you became more psychically sensitive? That your abilities became heightened?
Yeah. It's not so much heightened where there's less noise. You know, I feel when I was eating meat, you know, it was harder to tap in. It was harder to connect. You know, there's a lot of other energies in there. But as you clean, I just feel as you clean your body, and you know, it's whole mind, body, soul, right? But as you start to clean up your diet, start to clean up, you can tap in quicker. You can get the information quicker. You know, it's like cleaning the vessel. Just, I'm not saying people that eat meat can still tap in. You know what I mean? But it just took me a little bit longer, I feel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I noticed that too, because I grew up being brainwashed that I had to eat meat. And when I became a young adult, this was like some decades ago, I started having an issue with this whole meat thing. I was the youngest restaurant manager in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
At 21, I was managing big place. I had like, on a shift, I had like 35 staff that I was responsible for. And which was like really weird at a young age. I realized I was too young. And the stress that goes with it, you know, you're responsible for every single person in your place. And then like 270 or 250 customers.
Yeah.
You're responsible for everybody. Like anything happens, it's your fault, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I had to do was test the meat. So every shift I came in, I had to order like, okay, the sirloin, the fillet, the ribs, the lionfish, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got to the point where I was like, oh, I couldn't stand it. And I was staying at a friend's home. It was a family friend. I was a boarder. And he had like a separate room, which was like a, you know, in his home. And I was really close to him and his wife and his kids. And I used to like babysit his kids. And, you know, he was a good friend of my father's as well. And he was really cool. He had a great musical. He had vinyl collection of like, I don't know, 10,000 vinyl or something.
Wow.
He collected over his life. And he was like an enthusiast of old rock music. And I was like, wow, I love the music from the 60s and the 70s. And, you know, and it was a real musical education, that. And then I'd get home and they would be South African doing what they call a braai, a barbecue. And so they'd barbecue and they'd be like meat for me at home, and I'd be like, oh, and I'd feel like I have to eat it because I, you know, like I can't be rude, you know. And I was just eating so much meat, and the more I ate meat, the more I started to feel like nauseous of this meat, and I had to learn to butcher, because you get like fillet, you get like a 75-pound, 80-pound piece of fillet. And you got to trim it, the sinew, and you got to work it. There's a very particular way to handle expensive meat. You can't just let your staff do it. You have to do it yourself. Or in our restaurant, we had to do it. It was the managers, because it's like a lot of money. It's expensive, and it's got to be trimmed in a very particular way. You get taught all of this. It's part of your training as silver service management. And then I'd have to learn to size it. You had to eyeball it. And you're looking for a particular size steak, right? 200 grams, 300 grams, 500 grams was like a lazy age. Like, it's a very rare thing, but like, yeah, to cut it in a particular way. And so I would be dealing with this raw bulk meat, and the smell. I couldn't get the smell out of my head. And I was like, I detested it. Oh gosh, it's that day. And there were three of us, three managers in this restaurant, and we were split shifts. Yeah. And there was a fourth manager that would come in like part-time. And so we had to split these duties between us, because like the restaurant was open 7 days a week, and there was like a late morning lunch shift and an evening shift, so it was like 14 shifts a week. And so that was split between the three managers, and then you'd have your opening shift, and then you'd have a manager who's assisting you on your shift, and then you'd assist another manager on his shift, so that you're a backup, just how it works in case it's really busy or there's a problem. One of your staff member comes to work drunk and you've got to cover for them. So you've got to be able to like do every role in the restaurant. And but that meat smell, I couldn't get out, and it actually started to nauseate me. And I'm a very rational person, Moon's in Taurus, so I was like, okay, I'm going to do away with the red meat, but I'm going to eat chicken. And then I did that for a long time, and then that was the only thing I started doing. Everything evolved naturally over about a year and a half to 2 years. I noticed, wow, I don't even feel like I want to eat fish anymore, because I evolved from fish to chicken to just fish, and then from fish to just. So anybody who's out there who does want to become a vegetarian, don't become a vegetarian. Don't do it. It's not healthy. It's dangerous. If you're going to change your diet, it's got to be like, think of it as a 2-year program, step by step, and replace the one with another, because you got microbes in your gut, and you can't just change the food you put in your gut, because those microbes will pass away. You need to develop a new population, and it takes time to evolve the population in your gut from one food to another. Now I can't eat meat. If I try and eat a piece of meat, it would make me nauseous. Like if I've eaten something and there's this little bit of meat in it and I accidentally swallowed it, my gut literally wants to bring it up. I mean, it doesn't really happen much because my senses are so attuned, the vibration of the food. Like take a bite of a pasty a while ago, there was meat in it, and I started swallowing it, and I was like, my gut was immediately, and I was, what's wrong with this? And I looked, and there were tiny little flecks of meat in it. It was supposed to be vegetarian. And I was like, oh my gosh, was this a musa? It's a tiny bit of mince in it, but I picked up on that chicken in there, like a little bit. They probably had put some in there, because I do love a little bit of street food once in a while. Cheeky. Reminds me of India. I love the street food in India. Lived out in India for many years. But I think like that's important. And I noticed how my psychic attunement, like you say, it gets much easier when your body's less cloggy and when it's lighter.
Yeah.
And my boy weighs 45 kilograms. That's like...
what's that conversion in pounds?
2.2. So 45 times 2 is 90. 0.2 is 1/5 of 7, 8.
Oh God, he's solid.
8.2. Yeah. It's about 98 pounds.
Wow.
He's 9 years old. He's been a vegetarian most of his life. Yeah. His muscles and...
That's amazing. The whole misconception that you have to eat meat, to get your muscles, and look at the biggest animals in the world, they're vegetarian.
Yeah. So his mom gives him a bit of fish once in a while, which he likes. And I'm like, well, you eat what you want to eat, my boy. Yeah, it's your choice.
Yeah.
But he's mostly been vegetarian. Lately, the last year and a half, he started eating fish a little bit, but like once in a while, not like every week or anything. And people go like, how the heck is he so big? I'm like, vegetarian diet, dude. They go like, no, that's not possible. I'm like, yeah, mate, look at him. Like he's like a 12-year-old. He's like an 11-year-old physically. He's 9. People can't believe it. Like, I'm not big. I'm not a giant. I don't have giant family. The Irish aren't particularly giant.
No.
We're a compact people. No, dynamite comes in small packages. But so you were mentioning that you're going to be doing some teaching. I'm just curious. And you mentioned your meditation. Let's start with the meditation. Do you still do that? Is that a weekly thing?
I meditate every day.
No, I mean, you were doing it for other people, or you were doing a...
Oh, no, that was when I was working in the office. That was in 2020. So after the whole fear-mongering, stay away from this, and sort of people distancing, thinking it was crazy, it wasn't getting through to people. I told you I switched it, started doing the meditation every Friday. Started bringing myself back. And then I told you a lot of people were coming to me and asking what did you mean? The the teaching. So a lot of the stuff I learned in Arthur Findlay, I teach, but in my own way. So I just try to keep things simple. I don't want to go into too many esoteric things or things I've read that other people haven't read. I just feel, we are spirit. This sort of thing should be natural, should be simple. It shouldn't be complicated. So yeah, I will teach the basics about the chakras, energy, protection, grounding, intention. I do a little bit of. I took the idea of Arthur Findlay using acoustic wax, making your own oracle cards, because it's really just energy, right? So people would make these cards and swap them over and do a reading on each other. But I haven't done a class in so long. But it's actually got asked 2 days ago to do one, so get them back up and running again. I enjoy them.
So you do them online, I take it, yeah?
The classes, no. The class I normally do in person. Yeah, okay. I rent a space and have people come in person because I haven't thought about doing it online. Actually, I don't know why.
Yeah, I used to teach classes in person. Now I stay right on the edge of a nature reserve, which is it's not really central. It's not really that accessible. It is a bit, but it's way out of the way. But when I lived in London, I used to teach classes, and there's a lot of people. But yeah, I've been personally. I'm going to be start to do online classes. You might look at that because you've got video stream, and you can sort of engage with people quite well online, and then you can offer them all sorts of support. It's quite efficient, and so you can charge less because you don't need to rent a hall and all of those extra costs. Right. So it's something that people seem to want these days. But yeah, so it's been absolutely lovely having a chat with you. Your last ideas, if there's anything that you'd like to share with people, your last and where you can be found, give people an idea. We will get a link from you and put it in the description as well, or a couple of links. But yeah, any last ideas, any last thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, just really what I tell my clients, trust your inner voice. You already have the answers within you. And as you said, Franklin, shadow work is very important. But I also feel that the universe is so intelligent that when we need to release things, it will come naturally. But we need to give it the time. We can't bypass it. We can't push it down. And just to realize how powerful we really are, and just to keep it love and keep it light.
Well, thank you for that, dear Michele. And you'll find links in the description to Michele's communications, where you can find her, where you can see her content. She's got awesome a channel. It's not a group, sorry, a channel on Telegram. Everybody seems to call groups channels for some reason on Telegram. I don't quite understand. But she's got an actual channel which you can follow, where she shares a lot of her daily meditations, her ideas, her feelings, her advice, her inspirations. And I'm sure she's going to be you're on Facebook. You don't have a YouTube channel yet.
Do you know what? I've just started it, but I think of 3 posts. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to link those in, because when people see it retrospectively, they'll be able to go to your channel.
Brilliant.
And it's been an absolute honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Franklin.
Dear Michele. And God bless you. I hope you have an absolutely awesome start to summer. You're going to be in Ireland for the rest of your summer.
Yes. Well, I've moved back to Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, we're moving over, yeah. So
Good.
I've been back and forth. I've been back and forth to America for near a year now. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Like, it must be really lovely to be back home.
It is. It is. I miss my family. I know.
I've always thought of Ireland as such a mystical place. Even though I've never been there, I can feel Ireland. It's like it's in my back.
Oh, it is.
And so I feel like I carry it around on my back, like a tortoise.
But it's small enough, yeah. Smaller than Africa, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Africa is quite a special place. You feel the earth under your feet.
Wow.
And you really feel the earth under your feet in Africa, like like you feel the earth under your feet nowhere else. It's an earthy place.
Yeah.
Solid. It's earth is beautiful. You can smell the earth. The here in Cape Town we have the most variety of wildflowers in one place. We've got more wildflowers in Cape Town than what the entire subcontinent of Australia has, and they've got like 4 different ecosystems there.
Oh wow! All in Cape Town. I'm there.
So
I'll be over.
the best raw honey you will get anywhere in the world.
Love the
Can you
wild.
imagine?
It's crazy. You're lucky, you know. Definitely blessed to be there.
Yeah, I came here to have a child. I waited until I was in my 40s, and then I thought, Cape Town, that's the place to bring up a child because the honey is good.
Oh, love honey. See, I could never be a true vegan. I love honey. Yeah.
Yeah, raw honey. It's a big part, and making my own chocolate, you know.
Oh.
And
Yeah,
raw chocolate. Yeah, you got to do it. So my boy knows what real chocolate tastes like. Well, thank you, dear Michele. God bless you,
Franklin. Thank you, everyone.
and it's been a great honor. And take care, and everybody else. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Do follow Michele. You'll find her channel. All the links will be below. And until next time, Om Shanti. Keep smiling, keep the dream alive, and don't forget, life is short, so make it count.
Okay. Thank you.